KRA, Madam Anyara, the host, organizing for this conference. Industry players, invited guests, good morning. Good morning. So, yes, today is the second day for this conference organized by PIA. Yesterday it was actually a very fascinating day. We started at 9 and we finished almost at around 5. I was here with Senator Matangi and also the chair for the PIA. Just to do a brief recap, is that this one is the 13th anniversary for this conference. And it's the first time this conference is actually held, in Mombasa for 2 days. The participants are Kenyans who are in this industry, and also we have several from Africa, Nigeria, South Africa, and also Tanzania, plus the others. We also have people who join us on online from Europe and America, and also the eastern part of this world. The purpose of this conference is basically on renewable energy. In the oil industry, we have been accused that we are justifying, the environment and everything. But we have also to do, to do the cleanup in terms of giving back to the community about LPG. In my presentation yesterday, I highlighted, what the government does in line, with providing the renewable energy. As a cabinet, you've been included there. You passed the LPG growth last year in August. And the outline of that LPG growth is basically on how do we improve on our infrastructure in terms of common user facility. By having bulk procurement, then that one will have impact on the cost of price as far as LPG is concerned. Then we also talked about how can we subsidize, the cylinders. The cost of cylinder, the cost of LPG is basically taken by the cylinder itself. Then plus the accessories, it goes along with it, plus also the tax revenue. If as a government, maybe we look at the tax revenue, and then the industries also look at the cylinders, I'm sure that one will bring down, the cost of LPG. Then we also talked about what the government is doing for public institutions, the schools. As a ministry, already we have rolled out 20 schools in the country. In the next few months, we'll be able to roll out. Then as we progress, then we'll be looking at the prisons who are using the charcoal and the firewood, the public health facilities, the National Youth Service and the police. Those are the areas actually who destroy our forest, because LPG also has got some relation, with climate change. By destroying, our forest, also we are bringing in, the climate problem. And for that reason, His Excellency the President has actually taken the initiatives as a directive to ensure that we should grow, the LPG to the country in the next 5 years. In line with that, you've been in the cabinet. Also, there's a directive that we are going to plant 15 billion trees in the next 10 years, so that we'll be able, to increase our tree cover from 12% to 30% in the next 10 years. So we have actually dealt yesterday with the value chain of LPG, from, the productions, encouraging the domestic productions. Then how can we reach maybe the region? Then from the region, how can we do, the distribution, so that we'll be able to reach, our last mile for people. As you remember that there are about 12 million Kenyans who are not on LPG. If they are there, maybe it is partially. We use charcoal, we use firewood. The government program is that 40% of that population is going to be taken under gas reticulation and affordable housing. The remaining 84 million Kenyans will be now, together with the private sector partnership, will be able, to give them, subsidized cylinders, so that in the 10 years, then we'll be able to reach them, so that people cannot use charcoal or firewood. It's a progressive plan. I'm sure you have given us the direction under the leadership of our president. Those are the things actually we learned yesterday, and at the same time, we had several speakers from Kenya who are dealing with LPG, like AGOL. They did their presentation. That was the lesson learned from them. Also, we had presentation from Iran on infrastructure, what they are doing. It is more or less similar what we are doing. It's only that some of these developed countries are far, far ahead of us, but the vision and mission is actually we are conquering. So in this line, we also had a presentation from Nigeria, women on LNG, because they are the main people who are being affected when they are using firewood in the kitchen. They are scratching their eyes, they get respiratory problems, they have their kids on their back. So this one is a very impactful, program for them. So it's a lesson learned, from Nigeria as well. To crown it all, then when we look at this LPG value chain, there's also the cultural impact in it. There's a fear of using it because when it explodes, it can keep, the investors away, and people are actually fearing, to use it. Then for it to progress, we need visionary leadership. For our case, our president is already ahead of it to move us together. Then as an industry, we need to have power of collaboration. Unless we collaborate, from the policy up to implementation to usual level, then we cannot go forward. But for our case, that collaboration is actually intact. Then for this LPG to grow, there are about 4 KPIs. One is affordability, which all of us, we need to look at it. 2 is accessibility, how can we reach, our last mile. 3 is about the safety and security of LPG. The 4th one is environment. How do we care, our environment so that we make our environment safe? For this, at least as far as LPG is concerned, as a PS, as a CS, for public service, in the cabinet you have approved that one, and the ministry is now in line to move this strategy forward. And in line with that one also the climate action we have taken. So this conference is bringing together all of us from Kenya, from different parts of Kenya, and also from our neighboring countries and the world as a whole, so that we'll be able to move together to make sure that the environment is safe and also our tree cover is going to be protected. I think those are the concepts. Today we have KPC and you, so that we'll be able to give us the advice so that we'll make our environment safe and to work together in this collaborative issue. I think in a nutshell, those are what we have covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll call back on you again before we proceed to the rest of the program. And thank you for that recap. And I think with respect to the very relevant attendance of the CS is the fact that yesterday we learned that there is no jurisdiction, and I'm our online participants on, that has transited successfully without government owning and without government at the highest level owning the process, and government ownership has been demonstrated by India, by Indonesia, and now we are adding, as Bwana PS has said, Kenya, because it's coming from the highest office holder. And indeed, as we heard from Iran, that penetration of particularly clean cooking, in this case LPG, to everyone in jurisdiction is actually a symbol of progress and modernization. So I think today we with respect to the protocol, I believe Bwana PS, you have to come back here again so that you can invite Bwana CS to make his remarks before we go to the first presentation of today, which will be with respect to investments.
for interest of time, I have the pleasure and honor PS Moses Kuria, Public Service, to give us his remarks.
Thank you very much, PS for Petroleum, Mohammed Riban, my good friend, the CEO of Kenya Pipeline, Joel Sang, Madam Wajiko Manyara, CEO of PIEA, representative from all stakeholders, KRA, all the participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm very pleased to be here today to welcome you all, first of all, to this venue, the Kenya School of Government. When Wanjiko Manyara approached me and told me that she needed my help to get together this conference, I said yes, but on a condition. The condition was that this conference must be held at this Kenya School of Government, which falls under my ministry. So first of all, first I'm here as a landlord, and I'm a very happy one. And I am speaking to very happy customers and tenants. So welcome to the Kenya School of Government, where our core business is to manufacture leaders. And nobody is here by accident. You are all here as leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of our strategic agenda as government, is that by the year 2030, we have to achieve a forest cover of 10% and a tree cover of 30%. That is our stated objective of the government of Kenya. And we have every intention to achieve that agenda. Unfortunately, that agenda is compromised and frustrated by the continued destruction of our tree cover and our forest cover as a means and as a source of energy. So the conversation you're having here is paramount and very important for us as government of Kenya as we embark on this journey of ensuring there is no conflict between our environmental objectives and the needs of our people. That is the crossroad for which you occupy. Because when I look at you, I see solution. I see how can I be able to achieve the twin objectives between ensuring that our people have got affordable, accessible, and most important, clean source of energy, while at the same time achieving our objectives to attain the 10% forest cover and the 30% tree cover by the year 2030. And so therefore, I want to commend all of you and assure you of the maximum support and cooperation and commitment of the government of Kenya under the chair of the African Climate Action Heads of State, President William Ruto, who has distinguished himself not only as an African champion, but also as a global champion on matters to do with cleaner environment and climate action. So feel very much welcome. As we speak, ladies and gentlemen, we are not doing very well in this country. Our per capita LPG consumption is in the region of 5-point-something kg. That is very bad news. The good news is that we are the best in Africa. That's the good news. That whereas we're not doing well, at least just compared to our neighbors, we are doing very well. And it is truth. I can understand why Africa would lag behind in this climate and clean energy transition. Africa contributes only 1% of global carbon emissions. We only receive 1.5% of green energy investment for a continent that has got 14% of the world mass in terms of surface area, for a continent that accounts for 22% of the global population. We are getting the low end of the stick. And that's a conversation for which we must have. We populate the least, we pay the heaviest, be it in terms of drought. Kenya, for example, is the only country where we have got a period of drought and animals in the year 2023 alone, because of the worst drought that we had in 40 years. We lost animals to the tune of $1.8 billion US. Those are not animals from rich people. They are animals from poor people. So you can start to imagine the people who are paying the price for this reckless action by the privileged few of us are the poor, the most marginalized, the most vulnerable, the most disadvantaged in our society. How I would wish that that kind of wealth was lost by the other tiers of society. But unfortunately, because of climate action, because of our reckless actions and failure, missteps in taking care of our environment, Africa, and especially the poor, continue to pay the highest price for our misadventures. Then, after the spell of the drought and these unacceptable laws, we moved to a period of flooding. So we are the only people who die from drought. Then the next day we die from flooding in the same year. That is really the unfortunate story of Africa. And so therefore, despite the fact that we are the people who are offended, despite the fact that it is easy for us to claim victimhood and say that the responsibility for taking care of the environment belongs to people who are more privileged, people in the global north, we have accepted and taken it upon ourselves to take leadership. That is why the president has been in all conversations, be it within the African Union, where he is the chair of the African Heads of State on Climate Action, be it in COP27 and COP28, where Kenya has taken a firm leadership, be it in the very successful African Climate Summit, which took place in Nairobi in September of 2023, be it in the form of the kind of strategic leadership that we are taking in topics such as LBG penetration. We continue to believe that although in normal circumstances, in a normal day, we should be the victim, but actually what we have agreed is that the victim is going to take the front line in terms of action. Never mind the fact that these laws, these consequences were created more proportionately elsewhere than in Kenya. We refuse to be the victim. That is why the government of Kenya has taken very deliberate steps in terms of ensuring that we are going to raise our per capita consumption of LPG from 5.2 kg to 15 kg in just the next 3 years. That is a firm resolve, that's a firm commitment of the government of Kenya to be able to push this consumption threefold just within the next 3 years. How will we do that? Already we've taken a lot of tax measures, a lot of concessions. In the Finance Bill 2023, we did give unimaginable concessions to the LPG users and consumers. This year, as we go to next year, we are embarking on a very ambitious project supported by our partners who also share the same objectives to actually ensure that we are able to give subsidized. And I think I'm being very modest here because the actual objective is to give an LPG cylinder for free to every home. And that is a journey which I'm very certain, I'm very sure that we are going to achieve. And so, as we do this and triple the consumption of our LPG from 5 to 15 kg, I think that Kenya will have stamped its praise and its position in this conversation. Let me finish by saying that although the government is going to play its role, I've got the Kenya pipeline here, our petroleum refinery, and our deliberate decision to actually team up Kenya Petroleum Corporation, the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited, to be able to replicate the very wonderful success that we have had on the petroleum space, on the fuel oils, on our diesel, on our petrol, our G2G program, our government-to-government program with certain partners, to have the same kind of order. You cannot have penetration of LPG unless we create order in this market. So, but luckily, as a country, we've had very good success. Our success in our open tender system, our success in the now G2G is going to be a very good foundation and a very good reference point and a benchmark as we now try to replicate that success in our LPG space. Because there cannot be trust, there cannot be confidence unless there is order. And so, as government, I want to relate to you our commitment, the commitment of President William Ruto to ensure that if having order, playing by the book, the rule of law, compliance, if these are the ingredients that are going to build the confidence of our people, to have trust. PS has said that one of the issues is trust and confidence of our people or safety. May I add, it's not just safety. It must be perception of safety. It is not safety until our people believe it's safe. And for our people to believe it's safe, there has to be order, there has to be strict compliance to the rule of law to ensure that there's a level playing field for all the players. And let me say this, especially as a Kenyan, as an African. We owe it to the future generations to teach our children and to tell them that there is no country, there's no nation, there's no world unless we follow the rule of law. In Africa, for you to survive, you have to be above average. In other parts of the world, you can just be average and get along. What's the difference? Because in other parts of the world, the rule of law guarantees a livelihood and a sustenance and a future for every child. We cannot continue to jostle and demonstrate and riot and continue defending, shortcuts and other means other than meritocracy, the rule of law, fair playing field, law and order. I was actually shocked. Something I saw on the social media yesterday. Some kids saying that they were demonstrating because the government is invoking Data Protection Act, and they want to stop government from using, data and mobile, technology from stopping people who are avoiding paying taxes. Come on. You mean people are going now in Africa to the streets to demonstrate against against following the rule of law, against doing what is right. And I want to send a message to Africans and to Kenyans. These are our children. If they are doing it for the country today, tomorrow they will do it for your home, they will do it for you as a family, and this, for me, is not a legacy I'm ready to bequeath my children, where I tell them that it's right, it's morally acceptable to break the law, it is morally acceptable to, to escape following what is legal. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to welcome you to Kenya and to wish you very fruitful deliberations. I thank you.
Wow, another round of applause. Yes, we have participants online, and we'd also like to thank the World Liquid Gas Association, whom we have collaborated in the last 13 years to co-host this very crucial conversation forum for our continent. And indeed, I think we need to start redefining what economic development means for Africa. And thank you so much, Bona CS, for taking us back to our African value system. Our African value systems are about self-respect. They're about respect for law and order. They're about respect for each that you are, because I am, and it's important that we follow the whole hog in terms of getting to grow a company from 1938 of father and son to what we saw yesterday as demonstrated by Iran, without needing to take shortcuts, but with confidence built by the government and government institutions. So we have a curtain raiser for our panel that will follow the presentation by the Managing Director of Kenya Pipeline Company, who's also a Director of PIA, under the banner Economic Development and Investment Opportunities in Clean Energy. Remember that the clean energy sector is not just about the cooking, it's also about the transport, it's also about power generation. And we have found that LPG indeed is so versatile that it's being used beyond the kitchen. But our priority for sub-Saharan Africa especially is the clean cooking, because of what that will do in terms of hastening the achievement of the sustainable development goals, and really dignifying the lives of our children and our women. A disclaimer, as always, we have videography and photography taking place for purposes of this summit, and therefore those who are, by being here, you do agree to have the videos and photographs taken for no other use other than for purposes of this 13th PIA WLGA Africa LPG Summit. Bonajo Sang, please welcome to the podium as we give a round of applause also to our platinum sponsor, Kenya Commercial Bank.
Thank you, Anjiku, Bona CS, for public service and performance delivery, Moses Kuria, my boss, Dr. Mohamed Liban, CEO, PIA, Wanjiku Manyara, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll take this opportunity to just share with you a small presentation about what we are doing in Kenya Pipeline, so Kenya Petroleum Refineries, which we acquired the other day, in terms of the investment opportunities as well as the LPG space. So the first slide, just next page. I'll give you a background, and this is mainly for our guests who are logged in online. And these are mainly the potential investors into Kenya. And the background is about who we are as Kenya Pipeline, the opportunities that we have, as well as the government LPG growth strategy. And this is a continuation of what our PS, Mohamed Liban, shared with you yesterday. So allow me to give you a quick overview about who Kenya Pipeline is. Next slide. We are 100% owned by the government of Kenya. We operate as a commercial state entity, a billion-dollar company, and we've been able to generate a return to our shareholder in terms of profitability year on year, 1 week, and therefore we are a very stable company financially. We've been able to finance our projects with the strength of our balance sheet. But it's about time now that we are looking to get the support of the private sector in terms of taking it to the next level. We recently acquired Kenya Petroleum Refineries, which is based here in Mombasa, with 377 acres of land, with huge potential, which I'll be talking to in my next slide. Our strategic focus, we've been in operation for the last 50 years. We celebrated our 50th anniversary last year in September. Being an oil and gas, predominantly we've been an oil and gas oil company, transporting fuel all the way from Mombasa to the hinterland of Kenya in the region. We do transport close to about 9 billion liters every year. And we're in the process now of diversifying our business into LPG, as well as the fiber optic business. Next slide. This is our operations at a glance. What you see there is the pipeline network. We run 1,340 kilometers from Mombasa all the way to Nairobi, Kisumu, Eldoret, of course to Nakuru. And we serve our customers. About 60% of the product that we transport is consumed in Kenya. 40% is consumed in the region. And the region here is, we serve 90% of our Uganda market, about 10% Rwanda, about 30% of DRC, about 70% of South Sudan. So 40% of all petroleum products is towards our landlocked countries of the larger East African region. We have jetty operations. We partner with Kenya Ports Authority, and we have the latest KOT2. The KOT2 is the Pevu Oil Terminal 2, which was built by KPA. It costed them 40 billion Kenya shillings, and it has a manifold for LPG. So we're in the process now of doing, together with the private sector, we want to do a 4-kilometer line that will be connected from KT2 all the way to APRL facility. Currently, we have 1 billion liters of storage in terms of petroleum products across the country. Next slide. Next, the business opportunities that we have at Kenya Petroleum Refineries, and I want to talk to very quickly. As I said, it sits on 377 acres of land, and we are looking to, we'll be looking for partners to invest in a trading hub for the region. The estimate volume we are looking at is 1.36 million cubic meters. Currently in Mombasa, we have storage of about 329 million liters at the Pevu storage facility, and about 500 million liters in KPRL. So we are looking to more than double that capacity. So trading up to serve the region of not only East Africa, we are looking at in the future to be able to backload into Mozambique all the way to South Africa. We're also looking to create strategic petroleum reserves for the country under legal notice number 44 and 43 of 2008. The other strategy we are looking to do is the biofuel refinery. We've got inquiries from private sector where they want to set up a biorefinery. The refinery that we have, we stopped operations in the year 2013, and we've had potential investors who are very, very keen to set up a power refinery at KPRL. Next slide. We also, probably all of you are aware or not aware, we have an MOU with Tanzania on the LNG, and we'll be looking to commercialize or to get the energy into the country in the coming years. And last but not least is about the LPG, which I'll be diving sharing on the LPG growth strategy for the government, and this is a continuation of what the CS and the PS have talked about. And the national growth strategy, which is spearheaded by our government, our Ministry of Petroleum and Energy have appointed Kenya Pipeline Company to spearhead for them the LPG growth strategy. And this includes ensuring that the LPG supply into the country. We are looking to improve the infrastructure in terms of the storage and the loading countries, as well as ensure that you are transition from the fossil fuel into clean coal. And what you see on the right is the loading country that Kenya Petroleum Refineries, which is now operational. Next slide. What is the objectives of this program? The key objective of this program is to increase the per capita LPG use in the country. Currently, and this is information mentioned by the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, we are at 5.2 kilograms, and we want to more than triple that in the next 4 years. So we want to move from 5.2 to 15 kilograms per capita. What it means is we are looking at the next 4 years, by 2028, the population of Kenya, we are looking at an estimate of about 58 million people. That means, on average, we are looking at a factor of 15. It will be almost 900 tons of LPG that will be used in the country, both by households as well as schools. And the objective is to reduce the health risk associated with indoor pollution. I'm sure you're all aware that every year we actually lose almost 15,000 people. 21,000 people have been connected as a result of indoor pollution. The second objective is to reduce on what the CS Moses Kuria talked about, reduction of deforestation, which is a big agenda today in government in terms of growing 15 billion trees in the next 10 years. And the third objective is really to improve the quality of life of our citizens. Next slide. So what is the role of Kenya Pipeline Company in this equation? So our area of focus will be infrastructure. And in terms of the how, we'll be partnering with private sector. I've talked about the 30 KT facility in Mombasa, which the evaluation process is ongoing to identify a private sector participant who will be building the 30 KT in the next 24 months. I'll also be talking to how we'll partner with private sector in the hinterland, Nairobi, Eldoret, Kisumu. We'll also be looking to increase the supply into the country. And by increasing supply, we'll then be able to stimulate demand of the LPG. Because the ambition is from 5.2 kilograms per capita to 15. That's a huge ambition. And it will only be possible when we have available supply into the country. And with availability of supply, we'll then be able to create access of LPG. Because the big issue today is affordability. And therefore, we'll be using the growth to guarantee a low cost of product available in the market. And last is about bringing down the cost of LPG. The key focus will be the Mwananchi, which is the 6 kilogram, as well as the 3 kg. How do we reach the goals and objectives of the mission? The big one is about the market structure in terms of the supply coming in Kenya. We are talking about the terminal capacity, being able to increase what's available today in the country. Currently, we are talking about 27,000 tons, and we want to increase to about 80,000 in the next 4 years. We'll bring the support to the downstream operations of the existing LPG businesses. There's also a bit about the regulation, which a lot of work has gone into it, led by EPRA, and therefore the penetration and growth of the LPG volumes will be critical. The second pillar will be accessibility, and we are looking to get into a GGG the same way we do today for petroleum products. We do hope to get into a government-to-government framework on the LPG, and the focus will be on the low access, the low-income households, especially in our rural homes today, who don't have access to LPG. big one also will be the conversion of the use of firewood in our schools into LPG, and therefore remove the fear or the mystery surrounding the use. Number 3, we are saying with the increased volumes, Kenya can take advantage as the gateway of East Africa. We'll take advantage of the low pricing available in international markets so that we not only serve Kenya, but also serve the region. And lastly, safety will be critical. We all know what happened in the rally the other day, and we are taking place measures or lessons learned so that we ensure such a thing never happens again. So regulations and safety will be critical in this space. Next slide. In terms of the terminal infrastructure today, you're all aware that we have a goal. They have a 25 KT facility. Lake Oil, in Fipingo, they are putting up a 10 KT that will be ready in the next 2 months. And they are putting another 10 KT that will be ready in 2025. I've talked about the 30 KT facility that will be ready by end 2026. And we all know the existing facility at SOT, they're importing about 24,000 KT annually for Total and Ola. So what you see on the right is the available estimate, about 27.5 KT today. By 2025, that will go up by about 20,000. 26, so we're looking at about 80,000. And this should be sufficient supply for Kenya and the region. Next slide. What you saw there was mainly Mombasa. This slide talks about what are we doing outside Mombasa. So we're looking to do a 10 KT in Nairobi, again, in partnership with private sector, and also another 10 KT in Eldoret, mainly to serve the regional market. What you see there are the spheres for the ongoing facility at KPRL. I forgot to mention that Kenya Petroleum refineries today, we have 1.2 tons of KPRL, and with the addition of 30, we'll be able then to improve that to about 31.2. Next slide. We've just completed the truck loading facility at Kenya Petroleum refineries. It's now ready for use. We've started using it the last 2 weeks, and I'll be encouraging the industry to sign hospitality agreement with us so that you optimize on this facility. We have 2 loading countries that is able to design with a capacity of 5.2 MT per month on an 8-hour day loading. We'll be adding another 2 to make it 4. So we are talking about 10 to 12,000 metric tons per month in the next 6 months. The impact of achieving our goals and objectives, we've talked about there'll be options in the market to be able to ensure superior quality, better pricing, and economies of scale of this LPG. The cost benefits margin will be spread equally along the value chain. The environmental and health benefits, we've talked about the decrease in deforestation, improved indoor, as well as we are talking about over 20,000 schools will be able to use LPG in the next 4 years. And lastly, the economic benefits. And I know this is very, very close to what Moses Kuria was talking about earlier in terms of creation of jobs to our Kenyan youth. We're talking about the LPG infrastructure will be able to employ close to about 600,000 Kenyans in this space. New business opportunities, as well as a return on investment for our investors. In closing, so in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say that we are committed to ensuring that the growth of your business and the overall consumption of LPG throughout Kenya and the region by offering support and opportunities for all of us to grow together. The next 4 years will be a very exciting space for all of us as a country and the region in terms of offering clean cooking. And you'll be hearing a lot from government in the coming few weeks, as well as the coming months. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. So we will not do the question and answer for this because we are just going into a panel discussion. So I think I need to remove this microphone on the same subject matter in terms of investment, economic development and investment opportunities in clean energy. And let's just track also the questions that may come from our virtual participants so that we can take them at the end of this panel discussion. And allow me, I will start with our CS. We had discussions yesterday about what is this that is so central that can trigger investments that are required for access and penetration of clean energy. And one of the things that was very clear was that at the center of private sector confidence is enforcement or compliance, because a conducive business environment is what creates an appetite for investors to put money in a jurisdiction that has great potential, such as Kenya and other sub-Saharan African countries. And you being the cabinet secretary for performance and the public sector, what in your view is going to change in the next 3 or 4 years with the kind of targets that you have enumerated here that are being led from the heads of state that would then enable the investors, especially those who are listening to us online, to actually make Kenya their destination for investment?
Thank you.
Thank you, Wanjiku. I would put it that we need intervention on 3 levels. We need intervention on the consumer level. The consumer must be on the side of good. Because if there is any issue of safety, the first person on the line of danger is the consumer. And so therefore, as a government, as we work on this journey of maximizing LPG penetration, is that we will be able to educate the consumer and tell them that safety and playing by the rule of law and playing by the rule book is part of their safety. It's not a favor they are doing to government. When we have got the accident we had the other day in Embakasi, I am not sure the people who lost their lives were government. It is the people. So the first investor in doing things right must be the consumer. Yes, we have to work on the second level, which is enforcement. I think that already we have got a multi-agency approach on the issue of compliance, especially between EPRA, between the DCI, between the police, and all the stakeholders. But let me say that, and this is a challenge you've given to PS here and the team, we cannot continue to have reactionary enforcement. Enforcement must be a way of life. We must enforce at all times. You know, there's somebody who wrote a book, somebody whose job was fighting terrorists. And he said, he has to get it right 100% of the time. But a terrorist needs to get it right only once. That's how it becomes difficult. And I see a very big parallel here. That guy who is doing some funny thing and then there's going to be an accident needs only to succeed only once. And the damage will be, I'm sure here, the PS, every time he has an accident, for the next 1 month, he's not going to do anything except that particular incident. But we want to get away from that. We want to get away from reactive enforcement to enforcing because it's the right thing to do and because we have to enforce at all times. And the third layer is the industry. the stakeholders. As a government, we can only do so much. There must be some fair degree of self-regulation. You must agree among yourselves to do the right thing. Even as you call upon us as government to help you, you must commit. I was talking to the PS yesterday, and we were reviewing the issue of the players in this industry. I was saying, if someone is not willing to work with the rest, on the first instance, they should be treated as a suspect. Because if you don't want to join self-regulation of the many, it means there's something you're hiding. It means you just want emotionalism, or you want to cut corners and to use shortcuts. So let me challenge PIA, and I challenge the PS, and I did challenge the PS. You are tied at the hip. You cannot run away from each other. Between the industry players, PIA, and government, you must work together. There's no way out, because they are the operators, you are the policy, and so therefore you are tied at the hip. I also diverge a story I told the PS yesterday. Two sectors, which I know very well: tea sector and the coffee sector. In the old days, in the 90s, people were saying, let us liberalize. And there was a call to liberalize the coffee sector and also the tea sector. So part of liberalization of the coffee sector is that we vandalized institutions. We vandalized KPCU. We said everybody can go and do their own thing. KTDA from the tea sector was left standing. Today, and I am saying as a former member of parliament, I used to give bursary 3 times to coffee farmers than to tea farmers. Because the coffee farmer is a very poor person today, because we killed the institution. The tea farmer does not mean that you don't have problems, but at least we have got a starting point of an organized structure. So let us, I remember I was working in this sector in 1994 when we liberalized the oil market. And I must say that with wisdom of hindsight, there ought to have been some breaks in terms of too much of liberalization. I think our G2G framework is an attempt to claw back on that too much laissez-faire kind of liberalization, because there ought the need to have a liberal market and a free market need to be tempered, but they need to have an organized, efficient market that is based on fair play and rule of law. And so much as we look at the consumer, much as we look at the government, I think self-regulation, organized industry is very important in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We spoke, the microphones don't seem to be working. We spoke largely about self-regulation yesterday, so it's like music to our ears, hearing it from you, and our chairman of PIA is very passionate about that, and he really sees it as a real deal breaker when it comes to cooperation and responsibility and obligations of all stakeholders, including and especially the investors as well. So on matters cooperation, which of course is very key, and we've agreed with one of peers that we'll actually be a better cooperation team than we have been, because we also fed from each other. We have fought, but we always say it's always in the best interest of the consumer. So I'll move to KRA, represented by the head of the Petroleum unit. And we've heard that private sector and private-public sector cooperation is very critical for investments. And you ride on investments. There is no work for you if there's no investments, truthfully speaking. So could you perhaps just give us a highlight? How do you use, or what do you use to gain insights on the desired investment business environment?
Thank you, Wanjiko and the team. I think for KRA, how we gain the insight, one of them is the collaboration that we have with the industry. Having meetings and workshops like this, we are able to get the interest of the investors, and also we have the government policies that show where the government is putting in money for the next medium-term economic strategy. We have the Vision 2030. So we are able to know where the government is intending to put in the investment. And then based on this, we come up with the programs that are going to facilitate that. KRI being the gatekeeper, particularly for items that are coming into the country, we come up with the policies and programs to facilitate trade, that we ensure that we are able to bring in your items into the country with very little compliance cost and time. The second thing is that we create an enabling environment, making sure that there is certainty, and we come up with the programs that we are able also to give you advanced rulings, if you want, in terms of tariff, in terms of valuation, so that you don't waste a lot of time trying to clear with the government regulations. I think the other thing is we are looking at the technologies that you can use for enforcement, so that as much as we need to do the enforcement, then we also don't cripple the businesses as regulators. So we are looking at investment in technologies and working as a multi-agency, as the CS has said. We also share the technologies that are available in some of the agencies, so that using that cooperation, we are able to move within a short time and support the trend. Thank you.
Thank you. Just hold on to the microphone. Are there any incentives that you can use to spur the investments, particularly in clean energy?
Thank you. So KRA is not the one that gives normally incentives, but we manage the incentives, particularly the tariff, where you are given maybe a zero return or given an exemption. KRA manages that, and we are investing a lot in technology and in capacity building to ensure that we understand the industry. And when you come for those exemptions or you come for the refunds, we are able to process them within the shortest time possible.
Thank you very much for that. I'm hoping that if you have any questions with regard to the future of LPG in Kenya project, you can share them with us. Are there any? And if not, just perhaps before you leave, perhaps you could just shed some light on some of the inquiries that you have received from potential investors regarding the timelines and what next for those who have declared that they have an interest in being partners in the project.
All right, thank you very much. We've gotten potential bids, which is currently ongoing, on building the 30 KT facility I talked about. And these are mainly bids from national and international companies. We intend to finish that process. The procurement process is ongoing. We plan to finish it in the next 1 month. The other interests, which we've also gotten, is on the trading hub, where big IOCs, these are international oil companies, are visiting. In fact, I'm actually rushing for a meeting right now with a team from ADNOC, who are very, very keen. So we have a lot of interest in that space as well, in terms of the trading hub for the country and the region, as well as the strategic reserves. So to answer your question, yes, we have a lot of keen interest from private sector.
Excellent. So having said that, we need money. We need to have opportunities for those projects to come to a fruition through availability of money. Noreen from KCB Bank, our Platinum sponsor, perhaps you can speak to the opportunities that are available for investors who are here and perhaps want to also diversify into other LPG applications. As we had yesterday, there are a dime a dozen applications, particularly with respect to it being a transition fuel, but also for hastening the aspirations of the public sector, because some projects take too long to be implemented, and then when private sector comes in and implements, then government comes soon after, and it can create an unnecessary, if we call it, unfair competition, as it were, in terms of or adjustment of programs of the private sector, because then they need to recoup on what they have invested. perhaps if you could just share some highlights as to what it is that KCB Bank is doing with regard to cooperating with investors on money financing.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Maybe I can just start, by saying that KCB has been making a very big impact on the economic growth for the last over 100 years that we have been in existence. We finance all parts of the economic sectors, whether it is trade, agriculture, manufacturing, energy, infrastructure development. And I was very happy when Honorable CS Moses Kuria here mentioned about G2G. We have actually been a lead bank in financing the importation of fuel, bulk importation of fuel into the country, where in the last 1 year or so that we have been having this program, we've committed over $5 billion on the G2G program. We brought in approximately around 60 vessels. Therefore, as a regional bank, we are very much positioned very well to support the economy. So in terms of the solutions that the bank offers, we are able to fund key infrastructure projects, like what the MD KPC mentioned, the various infrastructure projects lined up, whether for the government or for the private sector, by providing very complex financing solutions and being able to finance the entire value chain. So we do partner with both the government to come up with solutions towards financing PPP projects, as well as financing the private sector clients. So in terms of the maybe the incentives which we can maybe talk about very quickly, KCB, we have partnered with some of the development finance institutions to basically provide the technical capacity. So when we are bringing funding on the table, we are not just putting the money on the table, but we are also having a technical bit of it for capacity building for both our clients and also internally for our staff to sort of support our clients to do feasibility studies, to do certain checks, and make sure that the projects that are coming to us are bankable. Thank you.
We have everything in terms of who needs to do what and what their role is, so that we can actually get the investment opportunities kicking off and we can get into 2030. We keep saying we are piling everything in 2030, into 2028, confident that we have done the full transformation. My last question will be to Bona PS with respect to the role of the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum in encouraging investors to take up opportunities. I know we have the master plan that we did, the Petroleum Master Plan. I also know we have done the energy and petroleum policy, and now we are going to the LPG policy and strategy. How do you enable investors to know what the priority investments are for the country? And do we have a methodology of endearing investors to put their money in certain segments or sectors within the energy transition space, as opposed to them coming in to perhaps increase an area that has already reached its satiation?
Thank you, Wanjiku. For ministry, what we are doing is 4 things. One is to make, policy that is conducive, for the investors. Already we have impacted on our master plan on National Petroleum Plan, which maybe in due 1 year will be ready, which we have incorporated the LPG issue. Then we have also started working on our strategic plan for the next 5 years, We are also doing policy on LPG, incorporated, into our system. This policy is actually generated by you people, the users. We put the thoughts together to make sure that the policy is user-friendly for the investors. That is one. Two, going forward, we should be also having stakeholder engagement at all levels. Because we have heard, from the last presentation about KPC, we have given the KPC the role because it is 100% the government, and they have the financial power, and they'll be able, to chip in the gaps, they have. We have our local KCB and all parameters. She has given, about the G2G. So we need to have that collaborations, be it financial, be it administrative, be it a challenge, so that we'll be able to move together. I think ours is to create environment for you people. We create, the policy for you people so that you'll be able to deal, with your investment as far as your business is concerned. Thirdly, as the CS said, we cannot do, investment or policies haphazardly. The law and the regulation must be there. And that one also goes with the penalties if somebody has actually interfered with their own peaceful environment. So in that case, we need to enhance enforcement. Enforcement has to be done with the CS said, with the stakeholder, with the multi-agency. Already we are in the process of engaging all those stakeholders the CS mentioned. We have done already stakeholder engagement with the Office of the DPP. This week, I think we are doing with Interior. Already we are collaborating with other stakeholders like the environment, the Department of Environment, to make sure that we are safe in whatever we are doing for this country. I think ours is, in those three lines, we are able to create that environment so that you people will be doing your activities well. Of course, stakeholder means we can do through print media, we can have online, what we are doing now for this conference, so that if there will be any hinge and issue, then it can be ironed out before to go escalate, to a bigger issue. So safety and security for our investment is quite crucial.
Thank you very much. So to our very last question for the panel, and I'm hoping that the next panelists are getting ready, but we'll keep the CS and the PS here. Bana CS, yesterday there was, from various jurisdictions, and I think it was more highlighted with the Nigerian presentation, the need to harmonize policies, because disintegrated policies are definitely an enemy or are slowing down transition targets and the transition journey for especially sub-Saharan African countries, where you have, if it's on matters of promoting LPG, the health policy doesn't even mention that just by switching to clean cooking options like LPG or biogas, then you eliminate the extent of death and disease that comes from indoor pollution, which is 21,550, mainly women and children. The environment one does not speak necessarily to how the switch will sustain the forest cover and the tree cover, etc. How in your docket can we ensure that there is harmonization of policies that will enable the targets to be met in unison without one policy contradicting the other or watering down an issue that is very crucial for economic development and investments as well in the clean energy space?
That's a good question, Wanjiko. Let me start by saying now, our policy on environment and climate action is actually very coherent and very shared. I'll just talk about, for example, the 15 billion trees. Whereas the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change is the one that is at the forefront of that exercise, it is actually a whole of government approach. Every month, I have to go to the countryside in specific counties. My PS says, I'm sure PS, the Petroleum here has got such a target. And if we don't do that, the champion of the project, who is the president, the guy who has given us jobs, is not going to be very amused at us. So we've got this holistic cover of the whole of government approach where matters environment and matters climate change are concerned. As a ministry in charge of performance contracting, matters of compliance with the environment are also earning marks in your performance contract. So we get to measure it. And as the old dictum goes, what gets measured gets done. So because of deploying our performance contracting framework, we are then able to ensure that we enforce even enforcement compliance with this issue, because as long as it has got a direct nexus on environment and climate action, then it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. Within the regional context, of course, Kenya is a member of the most organized trading bloc in Africa. I am comfortable to say that. The East African community is actually the template, even in which other economic blocs, other regional economic blocs, and even the African continental free trade area is trying to borrow from. The way we have got consistent customs laws across the region, consistent standards policy, a consistent security protocol within the region of 8 countries, which now we have actually made the benchmark for other regional economic councils. And as a matter of fact, and I'm speaking from the authority of a former Minister for Trade, that really the East African Community Protocol is a basis from which even the AFCFTA has borrowed from. And so therefore, our consistent, understandable, simple, and consistent way of trade practices. Because what this sector needs is fair, understandable, simple, consistent, coherent trade practices, which are all ingrained within the EAC protocol. Is something also that we deploy to ensure that we have got fair and equal treatment for all across our region of close to 350 million people. Thank you.
Really, a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, I can confirm that the EAC trading bloc Buenos Aires is really above the park. And what's not known to many, because transition, as we said, is progress towards a cleaner, at least in this space, a cleaner, more, less harmful energy source. The East African community countries were actually the first trading bloc to go to cleaner fuels using one piece of legislation in 2015, and it's the first such arrangement that happened outside the EU. And that's how we went quickly into bringing down the sulfur content of diesel and petrol, which is known as PMS.
I think I can interject. I think the EU copied from us.
Very possible. Very possible. So we used one piece of legislation, 2015, brought the sulfur content to 50 ppm, and now we are actually having the third update of that standard to 10 ppm. So we are still transitioning to cleaner fuels, even as we recognize that we will eventually have to eliminate them. But even as we do that, we are transitioning to cleaner products that cause less harm to the health and the environment. So hooray for the ESC trade bloc. A round of applause to ourselves. And a round of applause to the panel. And I'll request Noreen and Bernard to please take their seats in the plenary and invite the next panelists. We have a very interesting conversation here on making LPG access a reality, the secret. So we have Mr. Ricky Sang, the CEO of Jumuiya Energy. Please come forward. I know the seats are not enough, but I'll stand up here. Then we have Mr. Anthony Mabonga, the Interim Managing Director of BBOX. And we have Sang King, if they're here. And we have Mr. Ngodo Gadu. And I'm not sure if Peter is already here, Jenga, of Gobeba. So I will start with the panelists who are here. Yes, Karibuni Sana. Karibu. Yes, keep going. Oh, we have enough seats. That's great. Okay, so we can get started. You know, when a CS and PS, let us finish. We are very, very, very late. If you will indulge us, we will come to question and answer. Please let's be orderly because we are actually 2 hours late. Please allow me because I know there are people who have flights to catch. Let's respect that. Yes, you will. Yes. No, you please write them down. May I seek? Yes, that's what we are doing. Mr. Kefa, you will actually ask the questions. We are being orderly. We have persons who are attending online, so if you'll allow us, we can carry on with the panel. Please write your questions. Everyone will ask their questions. The CS is here. He made his time to come here. And even the online participants will ask questions. So please bear with me. So we'll go right into the panel on the last mile. And I was saying that when a CS and PS, interestingly enough, every time we talk about infrastructure, we think about just the brick and mortar, the infrastructure for storage, the infrastructure for marine import, the infrastructure for refilling. But the last mile, in whatever form, as you saw yesterday, even from Sun King, which is metered LPG, which you can buy through the Internet of Things, is still infrastructure. And today, for the first time, we have a very diverse panel, and it would be great that, again, we have leadership coming from magical Kenya, leveraging on technology and our techie savvy youth. As you can see, I don't need to explain who the youth are around this table. Very techie savvy youth, and we are pleased to have, as I've said, different last mile innovators who give us the secret on access. Yesterday we did learn that after very many studies that have been done, including in the EAC, the challenge is not cost, by the way. The challenge is not availability, because it's here, or affordability. The challenge is how will I access my next supply when I run out of this one, which speaks to access. And a study also showed that LPG is cheaper than kerosene, it's cheaper than the so-called clean cooking stoves, which use biomass. And the justification for this, and I know I have one of the consultants here who always says, every home there's a smartphone. It's more expensive than a 6 kg. There's a TV set. People pay for Netflix and everything in between. So it's just the awareness and education on what kind of technology do we have that can help me split up all my other requirements and include my clean cooking requirements in what I have for 1 month or for a quarter. So I'll start off with each one of you just give us a very brief highlight on what your technology is about or what your secret is about before we delve further into the questions. I know we will have only 10 minutes so that I can give participants a chance to ask questions. And I'll start with you, Ricky.
Good morning, all. Thank you very much. My name is Ricky Sang. I'm the CEO for Jumuiya Energy. I just want to start the conversation by tying it with the discussion that we've had yesterday, that we are 14% LPG penetration, and there is an 86% opportunity that is out there. And the task for us at Jumuiya is how do we leapfrog serving the market? So Jumuiya in overall is really improving access of product to consumers. I think we've had a very good discussion on the infrastructure and the subsidization, but ultimately from a broad objective is we need to get this product to the consumer. So as Jumuiya, we've developed a very easy, safe way for the consumer to be able to access our product. One of them is through a mobile platform where we sign up consumers, we map them to the nearest retail outlets. The signing in process is quite simple. They're able to access product at the touch of their phone. We're also looking at this distribution from a much wider perspective, more than the urban areas. So we have a USSD platform, an easy to sign on platform where also the consumer can be able to place their orders. They are mapped through various delivery tools, mainly border, and then they're able to place their order and then it gets delivered. So I think the challenge we were given yesterday is not to go beyond looking the current consumers of LPG. What about the people who need LPG but the access is not available? So the tool is really wherever they are in the country and they need LPG access, they're able to go into the system and will then make it possible for them. So we don't consider ourselves a technology solution, but really a catalyst for pulling demand. And supply will always follow the demand when it's in the market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we'll move on to Anthony. Same thing, just a highlight on what your secret is about. Is Anthony here? Oh, he's not here. Oh, so carry on, Godo. You have the microphone.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. My name is Godo Gado. I'm very excited to be here with all of you in this forum. I'll talk a bit about our solution. So I run a company called Tabona, and what we've done is we've partnered up with an American cylinder tracking specialist company. And what Trackabout does is offer cylinder tracking as a service. So in this room, you have LPG marketers, and also at the end market, they are consumers. The challenge is you buy a 20 kg cylinder and it costs $20 or 3,000 shillings. Are you going to spend $5 to track it, or will you get something sustainable? So what we've done is, by working with an established company who's already amortized their cost, our solution is actually bringing in low-cost solutions to tracking your cylinders so that you don't have to fill your paperwork everywhere. And if you look at the losses of, we've spoken to a lot of you in the room here, and you talk about the losses, or, you lose cylinders, there's illegal refilling. We're here to help you so that even as you move from 15% LPG penetration to 100%, that's from 6 million cylinders to 20 million cylinders. If you're losing 5% to 10%, it's unsustainable for your growth. So we have a solution for you that allows you to grow sustainably, reduce losses, understand point to point where your cylinders are. And if you have technology that is cheaper than what we have, then we're open to, because we're a software solution, we can work with your hardware. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Last but not least, Peter.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Peter. I'm part of a business called GoBeba. Our focus is on the last mile infrastructure. We digitize the fulfillment of LPG at the tail end of the last mile. We do that through three things. One is we help brands build digital platforms specifically for LPG, a couple of brands in here have tried to build apps, have tried to build WhatsApp or web, but then they lack the ability to actually fulfill because e-commerce is more about logistics. So we are the largest e-commerce provider of those solutions at the moment. And second thing that we do is we build small micro warehouses that are near where residential customers are to enable those brands to bring in their cylinders for the final fulfillment to actually happen. The third thing that we do is we also building, which is right now in the R&D, to enable brands themselves to have fulfillment that is almost a near pipe by building a sensor that informs us when you have run out, and then we replace the cylinder even before you actually run out. So we do those three things, and we partner with a number of brands who I can see here, and I'm sure they've been very, very happy with what we are doing with them.
Thank you very much. So, as we've had, we are really cooperating is such a beautiful word, with the regulator, with the policymaker, with the industry, to promote not just self-regulation, but also to ensure that those who illegally refill other brands of cylinders actually stop doing so, and that we enforce the requisite law efficiently and effectively. And there's so much space for everyone to play, but everyone should invest in their brand of cylinders in the interest of consumer safety. So yesterday, as there was exhibitions were going on, I had the PS ask one of the brand owners who have exhibited, but you're only, in the towns, you don't go to the mashinani. What would your solution tell that brand owner, assuming that we get the enforcement 100% and there's confidence that once I deploy my cylinder in the market, I will get it back and I don't need to feel shy about moving to the areas where there's no connectivity of LPG with the citizenry? What would you tell that brand owner?
One of the advantages of using digital platforms is giving us data visibility across the supply chain. So we're able to know this product went to this customer because we do the last mile. I think I got the sense that one of the hindrance to expansion is lack of visibility. Now we have a lot more better customer interactions in terms of knowing the customers. We know the delivery, we're also managing the delivery section. So we give them a lot more comfort from visibility of their product in the chain. And I think that becomes an enabler to, an inducement to invest in cylinders and expansion. Thank you.
Very good. Ngodo, we have had so many conversations about cylinder tracking. And actually, as per the law, if you know the legal notice as it is, it's the obligation of the brand owner to ensure that they can track their cylinder so that it doesn't get off their radar, and so that the consumer is guaranteed that the cylinder that they buy at whatever last mile has actually been filled by the brand owner, which means that it's a safe cylinder. What's different about your solution?
Good. Thank you very much. That's a very insightful question. So I will use an example. My grandmother comes from Moranga. So when she buys her fuel, she goes to the local town center. Someone writes for her, gives a receipt, and that's the end of the conversation. If any of the oil marketing companies here were using the solution and they were targeting someone in Moranga, what would happen is it would leave the cylinder would leave the depot. It's marked in. Gets onto a driver. It's marked in again using our digital software, because everyone can use it. The drivers, people at the warehouse, everyone at each point. Then when it gets to Moranga, the closest town center, it's marked again. When it leaves from the town center and my grandmother buys it, our system has the capability to actually register and say, this cylinder, the serial number, this kg was sold to my grandmother on this date. That way you have the accountability, you're closer to your customer, and through through that leg, you can also have when the product comes back, you know it's my grandmother who took it back. So our solution offers that trackability and traceability of the product. And yeah, thank you.
In ensuring that, and it's leading to my next question, that the consumer exercises their responsibility as well, because the consumer actually, by the law, is required to get a receipt from the person who they have purchased from, and that receipt should have the name of the brand owner, the serial number of the cylinders, and of the cylinder, and also the name. So then, Peter, because you have been using this platform, how do you ensure that you protect the consumer and that they actually can get a receipt of their purchase? Because one of the challenges that we have, well, at least some of the feedback that we have received, is that the Wajikowa gas, in delivering the gas, does not issue a receipt. So there's a lot of concern. Is that now legitimate? Is it not legitimate? How do you protect or give confidence to the consumer who buys from Wajikowa gas that you're actually delivering that which has been filled by the brand owner and you're authorized to do so?
Yeah, very good question. And I think the first thing is actually to know that actually the broken part of this value chain is at the last mile. Where that's actually where safety and all the other concerns are coming from. And so for us, one of the things we ensure is that each of our micro warehouses will issue either a physical receipt as a rider delivers, or we will issue a digital receipt because again, it's an obligation that we have to carry because of the regulation and also because of our KRA. So that has to happen. And I think the other thing I just wanted to add on top of that is that by building these last mile fulfillment, it is almost building the safer network which enables the Mutungi to come back and the Mutungi to keep circulating. I think there's already a statistic that probably less than 40% of the cylinders are, in the hands of the proper refillers. And actually, if you think about that, that's extremely dangerous. Lastly, if you look at, we started tracking Google Index on the searches that are happening on cooking gas. I think CS already told us earlier of the generation that we are getting into. And since the last 4 years, the search on cooking gas on Google has gone up about 20x, which means that the consumer that is there right now is not going around looking for gas at Wajikowa gas. That consumer is actually going online and checking where can I get gas. So in order to enable safety to happen, you're going to have to think about the channel through which this customer is coming from.
To throw a spanner in the works here. Bona PS. We want new connections. That's why the cylinder will be subsidized by the government and availed to the person who's not using gas already. How will you want the question that she will ask, where do I get my next supply when this one runs off, answered?
Before I answer that, I want to connect, what we are doing to the government policy. In current administration, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, there are 4, 5 priority areas the government is aligning itself. One is about agriculture, in order to have food security. 2 is housing, which of course, we have also aligned ourselves as far as gas reticulation is concerned. SME, for this hustler issue, which our youth are also participating, if you get the funding, because when you are training, you need money. The money is already there, which our youth can also participate. Health, we have talked about health. The universal health care, whereby the government recently launched about 100,000 community health promoters. Ourselves also, we are under energy, we are thinking about the respected diseases, which actually comes, from burning charcoal. We are interested in that line. Then, of course, about digitalization, which now the younger entrepreneurs are talking about. Because initially we have been doing these cylinders on manual basis. We produce, it goes to the customer, last mile, it doesn't get back. But now they are thinking of innovative issue of having how to track it, how it can reach, to their customers as well. It's a good move, which all of us, we need to embrace, because this one will cut down on cross-filling and also the irregular refilling, which has got a big impact when it happens. So ours is we need to encourage, we need to empower, we need to collaborate to see that what is best for this industry.
Absolutely. Well, still at it, Bwana CS. I need gas. I'm not techie savvy, but the nearest outlet is beyond the 5-kilometer radius that is required. Yet for M-Pesa, everywhere I turn, there is an M-Pesa agent or an M-Pesa shop. What, in your view, and I can say as really an observer of the performance of the industry since deregulation, would be the game changer for accessing of my cylinder when I require it without any drama, but in the same format of I'm going to the shop or I'm going to the market? What would your thoughts tell us to perhaps consider?
Let me say that I'll answer in two ways. And I want to ask the industry players who are here one simple question. Who is your competitor? As a graduate of the business school, as a student of the Michael Porter theory of competitiveness, I feel compelled to ask this question because it's very easy for us to see the next guy in your industry as a competitor. But actually, it is my humble opinion that your competitor is not the guy next door. You've heard that, for example, in Kenya, our LPG penetration is in the region of 13%. So 87% of our people are not using LPG. So really, your competitor is ignorance. It cannot be a company or a player. Your competitor is 87%, which is still stuck on, not using, LPG. It cannot be, that then any effort to get the 87%, which is outside, is not something that makes you look smarter or better or more competitiveness. I think this is also a problem we have in Africa, especially, where we compete, where we should be cooperating. And because the real competitor is the 87%, then it behooves upon everybody, upon the industry players, our young people in technology space, like, the people with us in this panel, to look at it. It's not that because my offering is the best, my product is the best. You are all on one side of 13%, and you are fighting for nothing. I call it the principle of two bald-headed people fighting over hair comb. They both don't need it because they don't have hair in the first place. So they are better off thinking how to grow hair than fighting over hair comb. And so this issue of penetration ought to be an arena for everybody to work together, because the bigger job out there is netting the 87% and bringing it to the fold. The other way to look at it also is Kenya, for example. It is much easier to implement something digitally than manually, because we are really a market leader. Our people have already accepted to move to that direction. M-Pesa, the world-renowned money, pioneer in mobile money. And because people who are there ahead of us made that decision 20 years ago to be liberal, to fear nothing but fear itself. And today we are reaping the benefits. We are reaping the benefits of daring. More than 55% of our people are on mobile money. It's a world record by all means. Today, we're going to have transactions in excess of $1 billion US, which are going to go through M-Pesa. And so there is a big, as someone who has worked abroad, traveled a lot, and I've got people from other markets here, you'll bear with me, that is unthinkable, only because we dared to dream. And because our people, I know of people who cannot write their name, but when we had this 16-digit voucher for loading their airtime on their mobile, they can do it easily. They are literally illiterate. And so therefore, there is no one, I don't know of any adult in Kenya who cannot use M-Pesa. From wherever, even from where my brother Iban come from. Yeah? So I don't know of anyone who cannot use technology to fix this industry, which needs a lot of order. There can be analog order or digital order. It's my contention that what this industry needs is digital order, so that we are able to move from the 13% and go to the 87% who are uncovered. Thank you.
So therefore the secret, it's actually digitization. The time has come. The time actually has moved on, and we must leverage on it. So we want to go to the question and answer session. If I'll get some help with the microphones, please. And as we do that, just to really re-emphasize what we always say as an industry association, we should not be fighting for market share. We should be fighting to connect the 87% by investing in safe cylinders of your own brand. Don't take another's, because they're already in circulation. What we need is additional safe cylinders so that we can connect the 87% who are not yet connected to LPG. So as we did yesterday, we'll start with the left. And please, let's keep it to one question. Just respect the order and everybody else's time. One question, so name, organization, and then the question that please ends with a question mark, not comments. Then we'll go to the center, and then last but not least, to my extreme right. Please carry on, Kefa.
Thank you, Madam Wanjiko, for giving me time and for inviting me to be a spectator in this summit. Buenos Dias, my name is Kefa Odongo. I'm a Secretary General of SMEs in Kenya, refillers, licensed about 35 right now refilling plants in the country, and licensed by EPRA. EDA, Energy Dealers Associations, also are members of World LPG. I've attended other international conferences organized by LPG in Turkey, and also the last one we were with Wajiko in Netherlands. We were not invited to be spectators, but they heard from us. I'm happy, Mr. CS. I'm not going to ask a question today. I did yesterday because we are being limited. That the answer and full stop is the question. Or you have answered part of my what I could have asked. And I'm happy that some of participants here, we were talking and we talked about M-Pesa. What we want here, that's a Kenyan solution. We were being given reference of Nigeria, other countries. We want Kenyan solution so that other countries also can say we can solve the LPG problem using the Kenyan system. The way they are using the M-Pesa, what we are urging for, we want a hybrid system. Because we also, what is being said here, what Wanjiku is asking here, as EDA we started long time ago. You go to any part of the country, you'll have our retailers and distributors at the next door as M-Pesa, who are putting LPG cylinders. What we need is enforcement and safety, which I totally agree. But enforcement and safety cannot come from one side. We cannot call a conference of this magnitude to come and go and gag and finish the local players. If we are going to do this by international players, which is being represented by Wajiko, we don't have a problem. We want them to come and invest. But if that's the case, Bwana CS, we have so many foreigners staying here in this country, even refugees, let the foreign companies sell their products to the foreigners. Because we cannot have Kenyans, the foreigners, they come only with a brand, put it there. The Kenyans themselves are the one who buys these products, build their tools of trade, and they are restricting us. Well, at the time of purchase, there was no written agreement that I'm selling you this, don't go with it somewhere else. You bought it at an alright to sell. Now, after being purchased, everything has got life, even in employment. Even you, when you are MP, you are given by your constituents 5 years contract, which ended. It's never, even the president of 5 years. If he perform better, the Kenyans are going to renew. So foreigners who comes here, they cannot own their products for life. Everything has a lifespan. We are now building SGR. But the Chinese government, finally they are going to leave it to the Kenyans, and it's going to be funded by the Kenyans' money taxpayers. We are going to expand expressway from Nairobi to Mombasa by the Chinese. Finally, they are going to leave it. They are not going to have it for life. You cannot find an instrument in cylinder which was bought 30 years ago, somebody still controlling. We must have a lifespan. That's why we want you as Minister of Public Services to organize a conference where people are going to talk, which is not one-sided, so that we can come out with a Kenyan solution. These are my presentation. So that we have a true and solve a Kenyan problem. But not to come and gag people and say that you want to kill the local people. And the people who want to kill the local people are locals. We can't agree to that. If you talked of the demonstration which was there yesterday and the other day, we have seen it. It's different from the other previous demonstration. It's organized digitally. If we don't look at this, it's going to explode. What we want, the government are using, and we know it's a friendly country which is bringing in cylinders so that can be subsidized and give it to the villagers so that we can promote green energy. Let's find a way, incorporate everybody. You cannot call somebody who have passed all government agencies, KEBS, DOSH, and all this, that is a legal refiller. When there are others outside there who have not passed this. Finally, EPRA should have been here. Because they are the licensee. PS, you get it. EPRA is under you. In future, we're having this kind of conference. Let's have all the stakeholders present and let's listen to everybody. Let's have a solution. There's no any part of your body, even if it's your little finger, chop it off. Then these other 4 will be useless. They'll not be as productive and have strength when they are together. 5. We are all Kenyans. We are talking of 15% in the market share. When 85 or 87, as being called, is left outside there. Why protect this one? And that's why I'm saying the PSCS has answered my question. Let's find a solution. EDA is already out there. They are in my village in Maseno. They are in Mbita. They are in Kikuyuni. They are in Masabit. Wako hapa Msambweni. We doing delivery door to door. So we are not going to allow other people to come in with a coated imagination to restrict us and remove us from our business. Come at your M-Pesa. But these things are already there. Let us modernify them. They have created employment. Because if you remove these people, you are going to have unemployment in this country. And it's going to explode. It's going to be much worse. But CS take this thing and pierce with bold hands. We are all together. We want to solve a solution. My proposal is this, for the safety, which is more important. The importers. Today, this afternoon, we are going to visit one of the importers' places. Let us have a levy, because we have so many levies into the country, which is going to be used to revalidate the cylinders. So the question of safety is going, explosion should not be there. We are talking of Miradi. Well, just God, I like God the way he operates. Because there are other people, guns were being pointed in a different direction. Miradi incident was not a plant. It was an explosion from a vehicle which has a leakage. Then, similarly, somebody is connected with other areas, their vehicle also had a leakage. Just in Embakazi, less than a kilometer, opposite Feather, Miradi is on the east of Feather, this one was on the west of Feather. And nothing happened, nobody's talking about it. And it killed a life. It burnt a matatu. That's somebody's property. Regardless, whether 30 people died. Buenos Aires, you remember Sachangwan incident. This was a petroleum industry issue. So many tanks were there. It was one explosion. Right now, go to Chesangwan, drive your vehicle. Don't go with a government vehicle. You'll see the way they are there. The police are turning blind eyes. They are looking for matatu, and private people have just overspeed 5 kilometers. I mean, if it's 50, when we figure 55, they take a bribe from you. Because I know nobody's going to ask questions. You have gathered people here. So let me take the opportunity. Let me take that time.
No, please. We have really to respect also.
Thank you.
There are questions here.
Thank you.
Now
allow
them
you have given them time. Kindly do that. So finally, one appears. That was an explosion of a petroleum. People lost life. We want to know. In Miradi, we want to know the results of the investigation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think yesterday we had an assurance from the chair of the Energy Committee who stayed with us the whole day that he's going to share his report before it's adopted with all stakeholders so that then everyone can have their say and there's no need to be fearful that anything, and really it's really constitutional in terms of stakeholder engagement. So we have his assurance and everyone will have their comment. Every stakeholder who has requested to have their input will have their input. Let us also give accolades to the driver of the tanker that hit the rail and there was a vapor release. He actually did everything he could, and that's part of capacity building. That's why we need to train people. He was actually getting people off the danger, and unfortunately, the one person who did not comply with that appeal actually put everyone else at risk, because then he didn't understand why he was being told, don't switch on the vehicle. And he switched on the vehicle, source of ignition, boom, exploded. Miradi was a criminal site, we know that. And it was really unfortunate that we sat and waited. We had every opportunity to correct it, but because it has happened, let us make sure that we don't have another incident. And we discussed it at length today, Bwana PS, the repercussions it had globally. It will always be used as a reference point. So let us do better, because we can do better. We had 2 questions, oh my goodness, 3. Can I just please request 4, that we keep it 1 question? So let's do the center first. There's a gentleman whose hand is raised, and we've been having question and answers after every end of a panel discussion, and this is exactly what we are doing. So please ask one question, I plead. We will have an opportunity to interact and network with the CS and the PS and all the other panelists. So you'll have that opportunity during your tea or lunch break. Please carry on.
Thank you for the opportunity. And we've had a good discussion based on the panelists. And my question goes to, what is the ministry doing actually in regards to consumer awareness? Because most of these issues we are having, the accidents, all the issues we are having in this room, you are developing very good policies, you are developing very good enforcement, you are working with multi-agencies, but at the end of the day, the person who is on the ground, the consumer, they have no knowledge. My background is LPG safety and health and safety professional. I support these people, small-scale dealers in LPG issues, but they don't have any knowledge about LPG, the safety and the consumer and their rights. When they hear the name EPRA, they see like a police is around. They hide because they don't have the capacity to know their rights, they have the capacity to comply. So what is the ministry together with all the stakeholders doing in regards to human consumer awareness? And that also goes to those gentlemen who have done a good job in terms of digital platforms. You've created a very good trust, but along your chains, I've not seen how you're bringing the aspect of consumer awareness. Thank you very much.
Asante sana for that very, very pertinent question. We'll take all of them and then we will proceed to get answers.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Duncan Murray. I'm the head of sales and marketing at a local company known as Starbucks International. Starbucks is a fully Kenyan-owned company. And my question to the PS and the CS is that how much are we doing in terms of protecting the cross-filling of our cylinders by, let's say now my friend there with EDA. Because remember, by the time I'm selling my outrights to clients out there, I've already subsidized so that my cylinder can get into the local Mwananchi pale chini. So what I do is that, for example, I buy a cylinder at 3,000 Kenya shillings. Then I fill in gas around 900 shillings. Then I come and sell it at outright of 2,800. So for every one cylinder that goes to a client, I have 900 to 1,000 shillings as loss. Then I need this cylinder to come back to me 2 or 3 times for me to break even. So if my friend on the EDA side, on the other end, picks that cylinder and cross-fills it 2, 3 times, 4 times, I can guarantee you that those EDAs, they do not go back and do revalidation for the same cylinders. They will throw back to Vivo, for example, throw back to Rubis, throw back to Shell, throw back to Starbucks to do the refilling, the revalidation. So my question is, how much are we doing on that end to ensure that the gentleman like Ngodo there, who is trying to do the tagging of these cylinders, they don't end up now again back there to people who will be able to remove those tags, and then I don't get back value for my money. So that comes back to the safety and compliance that my friend here just mentioned. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. And if any of you who have your hand raised is going to ask a repeat question, please, let's not, because that's been very well expounded. Please carry on.
Sure, I'm Reverend from Ghana.
Yes,
the
hi.
CEO of Association of Oil Marketing Companies. I think my brother's question that he asked is also repetitive what we have in Ghana. The same concern of the existing distributors being afraid of losing their jobs and the business because of the influx of the recirculation models. But I think my question goes very, very regional. We want to have regional facilities and infrastructure. I think we in West Africa appreciate the fact that Kenya is the gateway to East Africa and even to other parts of Africa. And the fact that you supply 40% of imported product that comes to Kenya to other countries. I think for someone like me, who is a petroleum engineer from background and infrastructure imbibed, I was very shocked that we read on the news that the pipeline from Uganda through Kenya was cancelled. Thinking from an economic perspective and the geopolitics around it, I believe it is a great loss for Kenya. And I want to understand why it moved from Kenya to Tanzania, looking at the fact that locally produced LPG could have been cheaper. Looking at the amount of crude oil explored in Uganda now, there could be more refined products to produce in the corridor, which could be supplied back to Kenya. What was the fear and what was the end game? Thank you.
Oh, Dr. Riverson, that is a whole day's conversation, but thank you for asking that question. Last question, I believe.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Triza. I work in the oil and gas sector. And my question basically was to go to the CEO of KPA, but I know it's a question that can still be addressed by the PS and the CS. I was a bit happy when the theme of the year is to transition to clean energy, and the government has a lucrative plan to expand the facility so that we can have enough storage that is able to supply clean energy to the entire country. But in the process, in terms of sourcing for the service providers, that is the ones who will be responsible in the expansion, he talked of sourcing tenders from the international companies. And we all know, for the persons working in the government sector, and this project would be funded by the government, if I assume so, the government invests heavily on expanding knowledge to its employees. But when it comes to sourcing for service providers for these projects, we have to go international. Don't we have confidence into our persons who are studied within the country? If you just watch keenly around, let's say for the engineering fraternity, they have a program to at least transition engineers from graduate to professional, at least targeting 10,000. Where will these 10,000 engineers practice so that they can at least share the knowledge they have learned to the locals? Why do we have to circulate our hard-earned money to the international investors? Can't we give opportunities to our local engineers so that the knowledge they have, they can impact it to the local engineers? That is a question that the CS need to get, so that the engineers, they fly outside the country to learn more on the technological advancement. That idea too needs to be employed to the current ongoing projects in the country. Thank you, and back to you, Wanjiku.
Asante sana, Teresa. Please let's handle those questions first. I think we can pass the microphone on to Bwana PS to talk to us about what the ministry is doing regarding community education and awareness, and also with respect to what also the ministry is doing with respect to stamping out illegal refilling. That was from Duncan, because it's a disincentivization to deployment of safe cylinders by brand owners. And then the big issue around, the question was from Ghana, around what happened to the pipeline. Joe Sang should have really been here. I think he threw you under the bus. He was anticipating that question. And then we have the confidence of local professionals as opposed to utilizing the international capacity as a means of also the experience. And I think Bonasias can start. Great, excellent, thank you.
Yeah, let me start, because unlike Mr. Sam and PS, I sit in cabinet where we make policy. So I think I can authoritatively speak about several things, mostly on policy. You know, for me, I've had this discussion between a local company versus multinational companies. May say that as a government, what you look at is, do we have rules? Are they understandable to everyone? Are they accepted by everyone? Are they applied consistently? Are they applied fairly? Whether you come from here or from there. Because I'm sympathetic to some of the ideas coming up. I remember in my previous job, I was a minister for investment. and I had a piece of legislation that was in the books regarding people who want to set up data centers. And in our books that time, we changed it. It was a requirement that if you want to do a data center in Kenya, you need to have 30% local shareholding. And you know, I was talking to investors and other countries in my many tours to talk to them in terms of promotion of investment. And I remember a discussion I had with someone, and he asked me, Google or Amazon, let's talk about Amazon, because Amazon is one of the players in that area. If Amazon want to set up a data center here, or let's say Microsoft, because now Microsoft has already closed up the deal, as you remember when the president of Kenya was in the United States the other day, for $1 billion of green data center in Naivasha, utilizing clean energy. Now, do you imagine if I didn't make the steps to change this law, there could have come a guy, let's call him Wafula, who says, do you know I'm the local partner of Microsoft? I own 30%. It's unimaginable. It's in the past. It's gone. And this is a message I really want to pass to everyone, that the world has become a flat place, a global marketplace, where it will not matter whether somebody is from Tahiti or from Uganda. And investment is going to flow into those countries which have got a fair, non-discriminative environment for everyone. And I think the faster we accept this reality, so that now we can align with the reality. Because if we continue to be in denial, thinking that there's going to be something which was an investor, don't pity that Maseno of Kefa Odongo. Maseno belongs to Kefa Odongo. No. Maseno belongs to Italians and Brazilians and everybody. I think Kefa Odongo will be better off aligning with the new global reality than we write to ourselves that we can be in an island where we have got some rules for people from this area or that area. Because we need this investment to create jobs, increasingly, the world is becoming that way. And there's nothing much we can do about it. So let me ask all the players, please, number one, the government of Kenya, of President William Ruto, is going to protect domestic investment and domestic investors, much as they are going to protect foreign investment and foreign investors. In the same way, we can have some affirmative action. We continue to talk to people like KCB, they are here to support our people. We can have some mitigation to really do some affirmative action for our people. But as to whether I can say, do not come here, do not go there, apana, we are not there and it's not doable. Let me also say that it is a good feeling to ask, there's a very pertinent question Kefa has asked there. Can you own something for life? The answer is yes. Because it's not my money, it's somebody's money. If you want to own it, have your money. You know, I may have feelings about it. That cylinder belonged to that guy who invested. Come on, there's no feelings about it. There's nothing to be pretentious about it. If I'm protecting investment, if I'm telling investors, come here, put your money here, that guy has calculated his ROI based on a timeline. And I'll protect him the same way I'll protect Kepa Odongo when Kepa Odongo puts his investment. Maybe that guy coming in here has a lot of capital. What I owe Kepa Odongo is maybe give him access to capital, give him access to capacity building, training. But when they're in the field, I feel constrained to say that this rule is for this guy and not for that guy. I don't know whether it's the right thing to do. What I know is that that is how it is going to work under this government. And what I owe you is clarity and openness and forthrightness so that you can be able to align yourself accordingly. We are a government that respects property rights, the right of investors, investor protection, and we want more and more. I remember when I was Minister for Trade, one of the events I held here in Mombasa was when I commissioned the LPG plant for Taifa Gas, which is, you know, a lot of money, close to 30 billion shillings of investment. That investment was from my good friend called Rostam Aziz of Taifa Gas, a Tanzanian national. So what am I going to tell to Rostam Aziz? That I don't protect you? What about when Kefa Odogo invests in Tanzania? What am I going to say to Kefa Odogo? That I do not ask of the same kind of protection that what I'm giving to Rostam Aziz here in Kenya. That's the world we are in, and I think what we need to do is to get used to it and to align our strategies to it. And as a government, we are willing, and let's not say this is multinational from the West. As we speak, my counterpart, the CS for Energy and Petroleum, David Churchill, is in Indonesia, carrying forward some work I started in my own ministry with a company known as Petroleum in Indonesia. We are begging them to come and help us sort out our upstream, because they have got more experience than us and maybe more money than us in our upstream. So it is okay that I can go and talk to Mr. Kiabu Petroleum, where I come from, but I doubt they will have the money and the experience and the capacity to be able to help us sort out our upstream with tallow in Gamia, in Turkana, as what I'll get from Altamina, from Indonesia. That is the world we are in. As regards the question on Uganda, I think it's a good question, but it's in the past, because as a government between Kenya and Uganda, and this matter came to cabinet, and the collaboration between Kenya and Uganda in the petroleum industry is now very firm, very solid. Our two presidents have sat together, and we have now resolved those issues. So it's a good question, but again, that is spent because already our two governments, our two presidents have sat together. The Uganda National Oil Corporation, UNOC, now I think PS, you're in the process of giving them the relevant approvals so they can be able to play, because we are, as I've said, the East African community is the most solid and the most robust regional economic council that we have in the entire continent of Africa. And so therefore, the government of Kenya would be the last to do anything that would be injurious to a smooth working relationship between the partner states of the East African community. My sister, as I finish, has asked a question about the professionals. And really, that really touches my heart, because I totally agree. We can accept foreign investment, we can accept property rights, but as a Minister for Public Service and Performance and Contracting, I really want to associate with the comments made there that even, for example, Bona P.S., and I was whispering to you, in the old days when all our dealings were with the Western countries, we used to have a clause on technical cooperation. So now as we work with G2G, with the ADNOCs and Aramcos and all these Paltaminas and even the other emerging people coming in this space, let us really, as a government, commit to ensuring that technical cooperation and technical exchange are part of it. Because when I travel out there, we are, as a government, we are in the business now, we have put a priority on export of labor, including skilled manpower. I was the other day in Abu Dhabi talking to ADNOC, and I told them, how come you're not employing our Kenyans? And they told me, we don't have the skills. They don't have the skills. So we need really to insist on those people working with us also, that technical cooperation, technical exchange, skills transfer becomes part of it, because not only I know Kenyans, I know one or two things about them. What trainers? We will master the game more than you, and we will export our engineers even back to your countries. Thank you.
A round of applause, really. And we couldn't agree more with the local content development. And actually, we had the local content bill. And as a matter of fact, indeed, what it is that can be procured locally, including the consumables for our road infrastructure, the lubricants, our LPG cylinders, must be procured in country. Apprenticeship and transfer of skills is what enables us actually to develop and to also be at par and to also negotiate around the table what it is that we want to come out of a project. And that is why at the PIA, we also have a School of Petroleum Studies where we build local expertise, and not just for managers, for attendants, for drivers, and everything in between. So, Bona PS, if you will answer the question on awareness and education, and then I will ask our panelists to give one last parting shot, and then call on the next, and then which is the last panel, to please come on board so that we can try and close on time.
Mine is just only add some few comments on this. These are all good questions. Yesterday, when we were talking about the LPG value chain, from the domestic production up to the last mile, each one of us has got a responsibility to play. And what came out, from that discussion is that there's that power of collaboration. So, as much as the ministry is also doing, the good regulation and policy, if there's no teamwork or that responsive, from each one of us, so it is just like a ghost whatever. So on the consumer protection, you people, as much as you are also doing the investment, it is also your responsibility to educate your own customers on the safety and security of your products. It's not only the ministry or EPRA. It is all of us to put hands together to make sure that we educate and make sure that our consumers are going to be trained. I asked one of them yesterday, you have customers. Have you educated them? Yes, he said, before even he identifies and whatever, he gives them the training and awareness about the safety and security of the product. That is the best way we need to go. It's not only looking up at the ministry or whatever. What can you do for yourself as a country? You being down there. Equal responsibility. The issue of illegal refilling, the issue of cross-refilling, I know it has got economic impact on you. That's why people are voicing about it. But let us put hands ourselves together to employ the regulations and also to do the implementation at our own local level. So I said here it means awareness is not only on the ministry, it is all of us, through media, through talking to each other. In fact, you people will be the best person to do the awareness, because they are the people actually who we are in contact with them. But let us collaborate around that area. And I'm sure it will keep on coming. But at this time, let us talk and find out the solution to make it going well. On the issue of infrastructure, oil exploration and production or infrastructure we are talking about, it is capital extensive. It is only people who have got huge money who can come and support the government. I know we are heading towards getting our field development plan for upstream and southern Lake Char. In my department already, we have geologists, we have engineers, we have laboratorists, we have environmentalists, we have geophysicists. These guys have already been trained locally, and we have given them opportunity to be trained in America, in Europe, and Asia. As soon as we get maybe the partner, as the CS has mentioned, for the partner, what we want is basically, it is that bilateral collaboration and the money they can inject into the project. But other things, we also consider the local content. The engineers will be the one who are going to do the work, and at the same time, as KPC mentioned, that once we put this structure in Mombasa, we'll be having about 600,000 jobs created for Kenyans. These are the local people who are benefiting. So in any project, local content must be there to safeguard our people. What we have locally, we can utilize. The skill that we don't have, we can borrow. That's it. But when it comes to procurement and whatever, we usually advertise it. Even Kenya locally, those who have got that capability financially to do so, they are welcome. It is not restricted. So in that project, it is open to everybody, both nationally and that, but because of the huge implication on cost of infrastructure. That is why, the big people are taking, the advantage on that. But local content is not actually impinged on that. Still, we have got our space, to play in that line. The one for the pipeline, the CS has already mentioned. It was proposed a long time ago, but because of some few challenges here and there, it wasn't. Recently, when His Excellency President Museveni came, there will be more. We have been told, in order to conceptualize through even the cabinet meeting, that the pipeline from Eldoret to Kampala, even project to Gingali, should be that. So, in fact, I'm just seated here for the last 2 days. I'm supposed now to put committees in place so that we'll be able to move together. So we are moving in all that. But all this, what we are talking is, let embrace, the collective responsibility. Before you are thinking about the CS, before you are thinking about the president, before you are talking about the PS, you as a Kenyan, what can I do for myself and for Kenyan as a whole so that things can improve? Think about that as Kenyans, not as individual, as yourself.
Thank you very much. Thank you. A round of applause, really. And I shared yesterday what we're doing as an industry association in terms of community education and awareness. I will not repeat. Please let us have the partition, starting from Ricky, just what you're doing in terms of community education and what you would see as the next steps on your innovation.
Okay. I think as the last mile distribution, we have a big role in terms of stimulating demand across the market. So we'll do a lot of heavy digital campaigns to reach as many consumers as possible. I'm really targeting the 86% of the consumers that are wrote in the portfolio. So that is a lot of heavy campaigns that you'll see on media and other different platforms. And I think one of the things I've picked traditionally is from a capacity building, because we are the people who interact with the consumers. There's a lot of safety training that we need to put in addition to the service that we offer. And in case of any further conversation, you have a booth outside there that you can come for further chat.
Excellent. And we are happy as PIE, as an industry association, to support your safety training. We can actually cooperate. That's a very good word. If you don't mind, for a PS, the same for Ngodo and Peter. What next, and what you're doing in terms of consumer education?
Thank you very much, Wanjiku. First off, just to address Mr. Kefa's question, what I had was a question around safety. And in your voice, I had frustration and pain about what happens when a safety event occurs. So I'd encourage the oil marketers don't only look at tracker, but look at digitizing how you track your assets, so that in the event of a safety event, you don't have to wait for forensics to go through for you to take yourself out. So if you say, for example, there's a branded cylinder that belongs to you, but you didn't see the cylinder a year ago or 2 years ago, there's no way it could have been you who refilled it. But if you have digitized records, then you have an accountable way to actually absolve yourself of the blame, which also comes out with brand costs and actual costs to lives. So as a parting shot, what I'd just like to say is, we're very thankful to be here with all of you. If you're in the room and you're an LPG manager, someone who has a role of oversight of where you sell your LPG, where your cylinders go, I'd like us to talk so that we can collectively together prepare a solution. Then my last call is to Mr. PS, is also to encourage the oil marketers to not only have their manual records, but also to digitize the records. This will make it easier for you to also, for your teams to actually observe how the cylinders are being filled, where they're being filled in real time. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, Peter.
Yeah. So I think for me, first of all, thank you for organizing this forum. I think it's a really, really good forum. On the safety side, one of the things we've done, and I think we need to do more, is to make the folks who actually deliver gas safety advocates. And as you make them safety advocates, you actually end up even paying them more because they are playing a really big role in educating consumers. The other thing interesting from CS commentary, it's sometimes very sobering. Actually, it's sobering. You move from an emotional view when you get foreign investment in your business, and you start moving from that local thinking, because now who are you if you have an American investor in your business, or you have other investors coming in? How do you still define yourself? And so that emotional of whether local or foreign or multinational almost nearly ends there. And some of the guys here who are building these digital solutions who at some point or are already having foreign investors in their businesses. The last thing is on infrastructure, last mile infrastructure. I think as we talk about the big storage infrastructure, the last mile infrastructure is, to me, one of the things that will drive a high return on investment on the folks like Starbucks, the digitized platforms that enable cylinders to actually come back, and they're also going to be the drivers of safety. And so we really need to take those innovations. They look simple, but that's actually where a lot of work needs to actually also go into. So very happy to talk to some of the guys who are here who require e-commerce solutions for their brands, or those who require tech-based solutions for last mile distribution. As I said earlier, we have a number of micro warehouses around the country that can help you distribute better and get your cylinders back.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to our panelists. Thank you. Please take the floor as I request Dr. Riverson. I know we have our compatriot from Nigeria virtually. Dr. Riverson will make a presentation. Yes, you can actually feel free to do that. We'll make a presentation on the role of industry associations in energy, professional industry associations in energy transition. And allow me to also read a comment that has come from a potential investor who is saying, wow, is that your cabinet secretary for public service performance and delivery management? Kenya and Africa, here we come. Private sector desires predictable business environment, candidness about protecting the investor is so refreshing. So that's to you, Bwana CS. Thank you for your candidness, actually. And indeed, investors require predictability, that what they hear and what they see is actually what they get, and that they're protected when they actually arrive to put in their money. So you've just won us some investors, so thank you very much. Dr. Riverson, you have a presentation to make. I don't think we have a pointer. Moses Kuri has actually got a list of the things that we require in the next session when he hosts us here for the 13th Africa LPG Summit. Yes, this is for you. So we have that presentation, and then we will have, please indulge us. Yes. This is the presentation you're going to make, and then we will give an opportunity for the CS, for the PS to invite the CS to have last say, so that then he can leave the podium. Okay. So go ahead.
Thank you. A very warm greeting from Ghana. So I'm here to present on the energy transition framework that Ghana put together, I think, a couple of years ago, which was presented here in Kenya by myself and the Minister of Energy last year, and also at the COP, also in Dubai. I will touch on the global framework, and then move also into how we are transitioning in Ghana. I'll emphasize the fact that Ghana, as a country, does not live in isolation. We do a lot of consultation with Kenya, I must be fair. And I mentioned to PS and yesterday at the lunch, And I personally have hosted the EPRA, personally 2 occasions. And I've also been hosted here in Kenya about 3 occasions. Next slide, please. So just to emphasize the fact that there are 3 dilemmas in the energy space. And for those of us who have been in the energy space for quite a long time, we attest to the fact that this is one of the difficult times we are facing, where demand is increasing because of 2 factors. Population growth. It is anticipated that by 2050, we should expect 2.5 billion more people. Whilst Africa is crying for energy security, population is increasing. And we're not only mandated to provide energy for the current population, but to also anticipate another incremental 4% of energy demand based on that. Affluence in security and affluence in the economy. Today, I flew here to come and give a 5-minute speech because I can afford it. You know, people can afford to buy fuel. But I always kind of give this very funny example. Growing up, my dad had only 1 car. That car we only saw on Sundays because it was parked. He walked or took a bicycle to work. But today, how many of you have many cars in your houses? And that's all causing for energy demand. But at the same time, supply security has been a very big difficulty. I don't know how many years Kenya and other countries have been exploring for crude oil. It's not easy anymore. Gone are the days that you drill few wells and you hit an oil rock. Now you have to go offshore and even deep offshore, and now we're even going the ultra deep offshore. Technology is there, no doubt, but it's getting very, very scary. We're not only mandated to explore harder, but also we are also hit by what we call the dominance of the hydrocarbon in the sphere when it comes to energy transition. In the early 2000s, we were hit by the peak oil concept. They did not win. They amortized it, and now they call it energy transition. Next slide. But look at it, look at the space. Does it seem like the oil and gas industry is going to be redundant in the near future? Not until I die, and until a few decades to come. When you're contributing 85% of global energy demand. Back in Ghana, we are contributing, the gas to power is almost 45%. Renewable in terms of solar is around 5%, and the rest also coming from hydro. So if gas is a transition fuel, then Ghana electricity mix is already transitioned. Next slide. We've moved from the past, the Stone Age, the Wood Age, Coal Age is still the presence, is going down in terms of demand. But the cleaner energy, please, next slide. But the cleaner energy that we see today, next slide, please. The cleaner energy that we see today is the hydrogen gas, is the gas itself, and all forms of renewables that we see. Next slide. In a quest of coming up with our energy transition framework, 3 keys were identified. And I'm very happy that for the past 2 days, yesterday and today, I've heard it all over again. And that actually emphasized that we are doing a good job back home. And the 3 key words are availability, accessibility, and the most important, and affordability. You know, back in Ghana, when we implemented the cylinder recirculation model framework, which we copy quite a lot of things from Kenya when it comes to the pricing aspect. It was not of a shock to us that affordability and accessibility were the 2 main driving force for the demand in Ghana. Because when the former company I used to work with, Ghana National Gas Company, was incorporated, we had a no flaring policy when we discovered gas. And that accessibility brought the demand of gas, or penetration of gas, LPG, from about 25% today to what we have almost about 30%, you know? Because accessibility was kicked. Because it was produced locally, we could benchmark a local derived pricing mechanism instead of using Argos to bring the cost also down. Accessibility was not an issue. And same in the electricity mix. Next slide. So the energy can be available, but if not accessible, I can't get it. And it can be available, accessible, but if not affordable, we cannot cure energy security in Africa. Please move all the slides that follows. Next. Good. Go back. Good. So this is a very one simple case study. When the Russian gas pipeline was cut to Europe, this unnatural data I picked from a very resourced place. We saw increase in electricity price, and in fact, we even saw cost of hotels going up, not because of the facility, but cost of electricity. And what did they do? They went back to coal after telling us to stop coal production. Next slide. What is the story? More than 95% of our resources are exported. I mean, you don't need PhD in economics to understand that if I sell a crude oil barrel at $100 and I import PMS or AGO at $800 at flat price, you're not doing yourself anything good. Why are we not able to bring on extensive value to the product that we produce? Kenya is not producing any oil yet, but I hope that Kenya is not going to repeat the mistake we've made in West Africa, where every barrel is exported and we import almost 5 million liters of petroleum products back to the country. Next slide. But this is a story. And China is a very typical example when I start talking about energy accessibility and availability and affordability. China is the only country in this world that understands the importance of energy security, because there is no country that has the highest coal plant than China has. At the same time, you'll be surprised to know that no country in this world has the highest installed capacity of solar than China has. But China did not incorporate solar. It was done by the Europe. Today, they are beating the Americans and the Europeans to it. Now, America is importing Chinese cars that are EVs. And even their PVs are also imported because they are even more cheaper than what is produced in Europe. Next slide. So what is Ghana doing? We want to increase our renewable 3% every year. Last 2 days, we installed the largest floating PVs in Africa, and it was inaugurated just yesterday by the president. We have developed a renewable energy master plan, which is along our energy transition plan. We have a no flaring policy. We have an LPG production that has increased, and we promote it using the CRM, which is the Cylinder Recirculation model. And like I said, we also have a model to also reduce the price. We also have, we want to do our barbecues on charcoal. So we want to bring some charcoal that are renewable in a way. So what are we doing back home is just heating or bringing a coke from the coconuts that we eat. Another implementation that we are doing here. Next slide. We also have our energy cycles reinforced. Like I mentioned already, we have the zero gas flaring policy. So no gas is flared because every gas is needed today. And also we have the e-mobility coming in. The government has given a subsidy and zero import, duty on all EVs imported in Ghana, just to attract the penetration, and also establish the Petroleum Hub to make amendments to the errors that we've made in the past. Next slide. So my last slide will talk about the implementation. The next slide, talk about the implementation of our energy transition plan. We understand that we have gas to power, we have hydro, and we have also the solar in our electricity mix. These are the main mix. We don't have any crude oil in our electricity mix. But we are anticipating to go nuclear. We are still talking to the Paris, talking to Russia, talking to China to have the best cost ever and the best technology that we can have. We've still not identified a solution for the marine and then aviation, so we're still going to have some emission as far as Ghana is concerned. But that's why it's called net zero. That is, and again, we need to plant trees to kind of make up to the little emission that we're going to have. The next slide, even though I'm not going to talk about it. And also want to say thank you for inviting me here. I think it's the first conference I have attended after taking the position as the CEO of a sister company like PIA back in Ghana called the Association of Oil Marketing Companies, Asante Sana.
Thank you, Dr. You need to sit on the front because we are then going to do the short panel with our compatriot from Nigeria, with the association. But a round of applause. And I think one thing that we must borrow from Ghana, Bona PS, is our energy transition policy. We've been advocating for it for 2 years now. It would be great, and it should not be domiciled. I know the conversation was that it should be domiciled at the Ministry of Environment. We're like, whoa. I think the harmonization, the prime mover here is the Ministry of Energy, and we really need to get cracking on it. We have experience from countries like Ghana. We don't need to recreate the wheel. There's a lot that we can borrow. We have so many similarities. It is Africa, and sub-Saharan Africa for that matter. So I'll call on you, Bona PS, to then get Bona CS protocol to bid us goodbye. He has to leave, and we thank you for taking the time. Thank you for hosting us. I'll give you feedback on the facility. We actually stayed here as well. We're also impressed by the fact that you actually not only untwisted us, but we have actually sampled a facility that is government-owned and government-run. Thank you very much. Bona PS.
I think for the last 2 days, we had a very good deliberation. No, every moment is a learning moment. There's nobody who has a monopoly of knowledge. So we learn. I think we learned a lot also as a policymakers. We have heard you on areas we need, to improve. CS is also here. He has also given us, his input. We have also learned, the experience from Ghana, from Nigeria. These are also, we need, always to interact, to learn, and to make, this industry to grow better. I think my observation is that we are on right course as a Kenyan. Though we have small challenges here and there, but we are working on it. And as a PS for State Department of Petroleum, I've heard your concerns, especially the work concerning EPRA. EPRA is not a police station. It's a regulatory that's supposed, to make work easier for you people. We have talked about, the investors, the local content, and also the big brothers. I think it's a very good, insightful conference. Thank you, Manyara, for bringing us together. And I'm sure going forward, we will be able now to talk to each other and make the power of collaboration to be a reality. Thank you also for our visitors from Ghana for your experience. We need to interact more and more so that we'll be able to move together. The journey of 1,000 steps essentially starts with one. So as a Kenyan, we are on the right move in terms of the supply chain of LPG. The infrastructure is ongoing. The policy, we are doing something. The investors, we are also doing something. We know where our challenges are, and I'm sure coming together, we'll be able to minimize those challenges to make it better and better. As I said yesterday, when the fuel industry started, there are so many challenges even than this. Where we are today is where, the other players in the industry have been there many years back. So the environment is good. You have the support from the top. As the CS said, our president is the one who's leading this. Political will is 100%. From cabinet, from PSS, I think the ground is good for us to go forward. So mine is to assure you, to give you support where necessary. I think we'll be interacting at all levels to make sure that we move together as industry and as stakeholders. With those few words, may I call upon our CS to make his final remarks to the participant. Very good.
Thank you, PS. Thank you, CEO, our visitors from Ghana, everywhere. Let me also take this opportunity to really thank you for choosing the Kenya School of Government to be the host for this very important conversation. Kenya School of Government has now signed MOUs with 25 African countries. 25 African countries treat the Kenya School of Government as their school of government. And we are working with AU, NEPAD, and other international partners to really adopt the Kenya School of Government as an AU institution so that we can really complete that journey from the Kenya School of Government to the Africa School of Government. Kenya School of Government is also working with two very critical partners, one of them being the University of Nairobi, the Harvard University Kennedy School of Government, and the President Barack Obama Institute. Next year, we hope to welcome President Obama to inaugurate the Obama Leadership Institute here in the Kenya School of Government. And I really look forward to the first cohort of students in that Leadership Institute also come from this sector, which is very, very important. Because climate is very important, Kenya School of Government is also going to host the second only Center for Adaptation, the Global Center for Adaptation. The first one is in Rotterdam, and we have already, entered into agreement with the Global Center for Adaptation to set up the second Global Center for Adaptation in Africa. This is an institution that is held by Ban Ki-moon and a lot of international, very important players. To set up also a Center for Green Finance in Kabete, in Nairobi, and in Matuga, our campus, where we are not far from here, to set up the first convention center with a golf resort where you have to tee off properly, otherwise your ball is going to fall into the sea. The only one of its kind in this side of the world. Let me finish by saying two things. One, we are all winners if we play by the rules. I cannot overstate this. Until we stop looking for shortcuts and convenience and expediency, Africa is going to continue lagging behind. For us and our generation, we can fight. But for our children and the new generation coming up, the only fighting they can do is by the rules of the game, by fair play, and by the strict adherence to the rule of the law. I cannot overstate how this issue of law and order and playing by the rules is important. It is the next big thing that is required to take Africa to the next generation. We have minerals, we have the people, we have goods, natural resources. We have everything. We have untapped potential. The only one thing holding us back is because we have never seen a shortcut that we don't want to take. So if we fix this issue, it's the biggest thing that is holding us back from the promise of Africa. And finally, let's work together. You do not, again, you're not going to be smarter or better by working alone. Work together as industry players, work with government, and ultimately work, for example, within the context of Africa. If we have got one LPG policy for all the 1.3 billion people that reside in this continent, we are going to have better purchasing power and more respect in the world marketplace. So those few remarks, I want to thank you and wish you a very successful deliberation as we close this summit. Thank you.